Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, as well as our Twitch page, and we are also live on the Facebook and YouTube pages of the Virtual Cantina Network. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are watching on YouTube, either on our channel or that of the Virtual Cantina Network, please don't forget to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time that we go live. If you would like to get some customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get some sweet Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed co-host, who is lacking a bit of a voice tonight. So I might have to do a little bit more talking than usual, which, if you've paid any attention to this show, you know that's not going to be difficult. So without further ado, here is AJ. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, what's going on tonight?
Not too much. I would like to point out that if you did not show up like 90 seconds before we were supposed to go live, you wouldn't have to be changing our graphics live on screen as we're doing the show live. I don't know if you know that that's a thing that can be done, but
I do.
I just wanted to point that out. Just saying.
Well, I'm a very important person, you see, and I have other things going on. So I was busy doing stuff today that did not involve the podcast. So my apologies.
It could still be like 5 minutes early. Just saying. You need one of those time turner things that occur, in the Harry Potter series, which we are talking about tonight. Not that particular novel, but we are talking Harry Potter.
I'll post a picture of me at King's Cross Station to our Twitter page. How about that?
I don't think that'll help get the graphics on the screen on time.
Well, that's the thing I'm busy with, okay? I have to get on a friggin' plane and, cross continents tomorrow. So, some things had to be handled first. It's okay.
Here we go. I'm a manager. I get to fly overseas because I have a very good, well-paying job, and I'm very important. Look at me, all responsible. Why don't you just apparate, you dummy?
It's a good thing you're not funny, because otherwise I'd laugh and have to start coughing.
Man, that sucks. You hacked your voice all up right before having to go over to France. Oh, you're going to New York City, aren't you? First.
Tomorrow I'm going to New York, yeah.
Oh, man. I am so jealous of that trip. That is, you are hitting one of my bucket list locations, that being the 9/11 museum. I cannot wait to go see that. So have fun. Let me know how awesome it is. And
yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure it'll be an emotionally overwhelming experience, but it's one of those things that just feels like it needs to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Sorry, no levity or jokes there, guys. It's 9/11.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird. AJ and I were both at Ground Zero a year and a half after it happened. It was March of 2003. So we saw it when it was just two giant cleaned out holes in the ground, but it still had the construction fence around it and the wooden wall with, the T-shirts and the pictures up from the families and stuff. It was incredibly heavy. So it's definitely, AJ's going to the museum tomorrow, and that's definitely, one of the things I want to see. But, before we get to tonight's topic, I figured, I would remind everybody that, there's Kale. Good to see you, man. Kale McLeish checking in as always. Great to see you, bro. Thanks for checking it out. Just a reminder to you guys that the views of the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. And there might be some bad language on the show. So if you don't like that sort of thing, sorry, we curse here and there. Oh, there's our good friend Chastity Crawley. Good to see you, Chastity. She says, proud Ravenclaw here. So excited for this show and series. Yeah, I am too. We'll get to that in a quick second. I am very pumped up to do this. So this is definitely going to be something cool, I think. So, real quick, obviously, we need to touch on the Acolyte. It was released yesterday, a two episode debut. Mm-hmm. And I hate to do this right off the bat, but I am going to provide a spoiler. That spoiler being, I haven't watched it or seen a single second of it, so we're not talking about it. Yay. There we go. There's your Acolyte update. Breaking news. Did you watch it, incidentally?
I did.
Did you?
It was a cool opportunity, being that it's like a new era of Star Wars, new time period, to start a new Star Wars show with my girlfriend and her son, and none of us have any prior knowledge of what's going to happen. So,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we get to all watch it together.
Okay. Yeah. My wife said she wants nothing to do with it, so this will be one I'm watching on my own. She said if I want to watch it, I'll watch it on my own when I feel like it. I said, sweet. That means I don't got to schedule this crap. So there we go. But all right, well let's dig into tonight's topic. So this is kind of funny as usual. I'm about 20 years too late on pop culture things. For those of you who don't know me very well, that is actually a completely true statement. I get into stuff that's really popular like way, way, way after the fact. So I got into Harry Potter last year, the year before, I think. I was just looking for something to read. I hadn't read very much, and I was like, man, I want to read, but I want to read something that's a series, kind of give me something pretty big to dig into, because I'm a huge fan of The Dark Tower, the Stephen King series. And I thought, you know what the hell, I am John Phillips. Your wife is very smart, Drake. Man, look, if you don't like Star Wars, what the hell are you doing here, bro? Nice. But yeah, so I wanted to do something that was a series, and I thought, okay, well, I will, I'm gonna read this first Harry Potter book. Let's see what the hype is about. And I ended up just absolutely loving it. Just loving it. So then, I bought the rest of I bought them one at a time as I needed them. My phone is my e-reader, because I used to have an e-reader. It broke. They have an app, so I just use the phone or my tablet now. But yeah, so I bought all 7 books. I totally chewed through them. I watched the movies, after that, to see, how those compared. And I'm just, holy crap, man. I am just absolutely hooked. And I've become an enormous fan, and it's fun. I mean, I think the word that I come back to, AJ, and I don't know how big of a fan you are necessarily of Harry Potter, but the word I always think of is charming. And I know that's kind of cheesy, and but it is. It's and I enjoy the writing. I like how the themes and the tone and whatnot kind of age with the target audience. It's the first book is very much like, it's an easy read, and it's light, and it's little kids running around basically Hogwarts and stuff. And as the readers get older, so does Harry, and it gets darker and darker, and it's pretty serious, which I thought was really, really cool.
That is one of the things that I love, is that the audience gets to grow up in real time with the characters, and like you said, the tone of the writing matures as well. So, we're talking only about Sorcerer's Stone tonight, but the saga in general, like what he faces in this book it's small potatoes compared to, what it culminates into. So it's cool the way that the stakes keep ratcheting up year over year, and the maturity of the storytelling ratchets up year over year as the character matures year over year, as do the readers following along. So that, combined with the movie franchise coming out, what was it, like 18 months between movies or something? It was like a crazy fast cadence.
Yeah, they did them pretty quickly, yeah.
But they cast, Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Stone, is that right? And
Emma Watson.
I forget. Oh, Emma Watson, yeah. Sorry, not Emma Stone. And I forget the character, the guy who plays Ron Weasley, but
Rupert Grint.
Oh yeah, so they cast all those people like at just the right age, so that they could grow up in real time with the filming of the movies too. Yep. So it was perfect all the way around.
Yeah. And the one thing that I liked, and I'm a big stickler for this. I don't know about you. I tend to be a huge stickler for this sort of thing. The movies were fairly close to the book. They're pretty accurate. I mean, the stuff that they cut out was, you could understand why they cut it out.
Yeah. In preparation for tonight, I started by rewatching the movie, and then I went through the book again, and then I rewatched the movie, because it's been so long since I checked all this stuff out that I had to refresh my memory. Ed Sheeran.
Cam McLeish says the actors are Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Stone, and Ed Sheeran. Nice.
Hermione shows up in the train car for the first time, and Ron's like, "I'm in love with the shape of you."
Wow, our an NHC first, an Ed Sheeran reference on the show. Never thought we'd have one of those. How do you know that and not me? I'm the one that sings in a cover band. I had to know that, but I don't know any Ed Sheeran.
Anyway, what the hell was I saying? I totally forget.
We got sidetracked, man.
I got totally sidetracked. Oh my god. Oh man. Oh yeah. So anyway, being so rusty with these things, I had to watch the movie first, and I went into it the first viewing without remembering all the details, and I was like, this is it was like my old memory was of it being kind of a disjointed mess in places. Like there were a lot of like sudden jumps. And I was like, this makes no sense. How did the last scene connect to this one? But I kind of get it, because now that I went back and read the book again, I see all that they cut out and changed. And for the sake of runtime, they kind of had to.
Yeah.
So there's only a few places that I would really be like, all right, you had to do that better. But most of it just doesn't matter. It's like we talk about with Star Wars. There's goofy stuff, or any good movie. Like, you could recognize the stuff that's silly and doesn't make sense, and you just don't care.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of that going on in Sorcerer Stone, where it's like, if they thought about that for like 2 seconds, they'd realize how stupid that was.
Yeah.
But when you're watching it, you just don't care.
I completely agree with that. I mean, one of the Joe Gebhardt checking in. Good to see you, man. He says, wife and I are big fans of Harry Potter. That's awesome, man. Yeah, like I say, I'm new to this, but I've devoured everything there is to devour pretty much. So
so my overriding question for the chat tonight is, if you're a fan or not of Harry Potter, I want to know why. Like, being like an adopted fan, Star Wars, I get. You don't have to explain to me why Star Wars is awesome, but I like you, JT, I came into Harry Potter later, like after all the hype had died down, and I met somebody who was so into Harry Potter. I was like, all right, well, you're into Harry Potter like I'm into Star Wars. I'll try this.
yeah.
So I never really got it. And so I would love to know why people do or don't get into Harry Potter the same way people are like ride or die with Star Wars,
Yeah. Real quick point on your previous thing, and then I can explain why what grabbed me about it. But yeah, I mean, to your point about things that are weird that might not work, but you don't care because you're having so much fun. I think a perfect example, and we won't belabor this too much, but there are certain plot points they have to jump to. Like, how did Harry and Ron and Hermione figure this out? And in the in the novel, they would kind of go through the paces and, okay, here's how they figured it out. They did their research and stuff like that, had their adventures. And in the movie, Hagrid would just blurt it out and go, shouldn't have told you that. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, the way they explained it away, I was like, well, okay, I guess that works. And they had to make it work somehow. And I think I read somewhere that the first cut of this movie was like 3 hours. So there are deleted scenes. Like, and I mean, you can't put an audience of young kids through a 3-hour movie. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's already 2.5 with the credits, so, but in terms of your question and as to why you like it, again, I use the word at the outset of the show. It's charming, but I think that it's emotionally very dense, and I like, and I mean that in terms of, it has like universal themes that are pretty common when you think about it. You've got Harry Potter as a hero, you've got the friendship, you've got the group, and it's universal, but just the way that it's played out and the way that it's described, I think, is incredibly emotionally weighty. And I think, having them start out as kids in school, like, everybody can relate to that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, who didn't have like their band of, best friends in school, and you did everything with them and you became inseparable. And I think, that part of it adds to the standard, kind of classic tropes that go on in it. And it's just, it's a lot of fun. It's very fast moving. And, obviously, like I said, we're not talking about the other novels tonight, but even the biggest one, Goblet of Fire, it just moves. It takes you from place to place so quickly. And it's, again, you know, it's awesome how the characters grow and the readers grow about the same age and pace and whatnot. And I like how the story flows that way. I think it's very interesting because it's not, you know, like a serial where every chapter is just, oh, they're on a new adventure. Like, no, it broadens the story, broadens the story, broadens the story. And you're building to this massive, massive climax at the end of Deathly Hallows. And you know, it's pretty cool. It's almost like you know, there's a storm cloud on the horizon and it keeps getting closer and closer to you as you read. And it's just a fascinating thing. And I always find myself just like emotionally drawn into these characters. They were just written so unbelievably well. And it's, you know, again, it's the typical good versus evil thing, and love prevails, which is, I mean, a massive thing, which we'll get to down the road.
Mhm.
But I think it's done in like not a cheesy way. It's like, you know, you really feel it, and it just really spoke to me in a way, you know. And maybe it's because it's kind of nerdy, I suppose, and you know, that's like our kind of thing. But I love it, you know. So all right, so Chastity Crawley says she is a major Potterhead, huge fan from the very beginning. There's a comment from J.K. Rowling that said, Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home. Harry Potter was just comforting and welcoming. Yeah, that's an excellent way to phrase it. It is very comforting. It's like your favorite pair of jeans, you know? I think that's awesome. You know, I mean, and Kale, I mean, simplifies it. He says, "Why do I like Harry Potter? I don't know. I absolutely do not know. It just works." Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I get
completely
it.
agree.
I do get it in that respect. Like the sense of comfort. It's the closest thing I can equate it to is like, you know, as a kid, you kind of have this boundless imagination where
Yeah,
you just have this idea of like, well, why couldn't life be like this? Why couldn't this be the way the world works? And you can, you know, make believe your way into believing that magic is a thing and that animals can talk and, you know, all these other fantastical ideas. And then Harry Potter comes along and it's all here in this franchise. It's like J.K. Rowling actually said, yeah, let's make a world that's just like that. Let's pretend that like there's the sheen of the veneer of the real world where everything is boring, you know, the muggle world. And
yeah,
then let's pretend that there actually is that world that we all believed in as kids, but it's just behind the curtain, you know. And if you only
yeah.
know how to peel the curtain back, there's this whole other world of possibilities. And it's just fun to believe that that's a thing that could exist.
Yeah. And Magic. Oh, look at this, man. Chris Phillip, Mark Thrasher's brother. Good to see you, brother. He says, "What's up, guys?" Andrea would be all over this. Get her on, man. Get her on.
Yeah,
Good to see you,
absolutely.
brother. Hope all is well over there with you guys, man. Um, yeah, no, I completely agree. And magic is one of those concepts, I think, you know, again, as a kid, you're, you know, fascinated by clowns and magicians and all that stuff. And to have something where it's presented like it is reality, you know, with all these interesting, you know, kind of things going on, I think works exceptionally well.
Mhm.
You know, again, I think it wasn't written in a cheesy fashion, because I think it like I know that for me, when I first heard about it, it was like, oh, you should read this story about wizards and witches and magic. I'm like, I'm not really interested in that stuff. And then I basically was like, hey, you know what? I haven't ever checked out Harry Potter. Let me read it. You know, there's got to be something there, considering everybody in the world loves it, you know.
Mhm.
And there was. I mean, it's not a cheesy thing. Like, it's presented as a reality, you know, which I think is great. It's not presented as, oh, look how crazy it's this weird, like, no, to them, this is real. And it's written and presented that way, you know, kind of like, you know, Star Wars. Oh, they're in space battles and stuff. Like, no, this is a real thing. You know, it's not all, you know, goofy and fluffy and, you know.
You know, I think you hit on it right there. Because yeah, the characters themselves actually give weight to everything that's going on. Like even in the train car on the way to Hogwarts, when um, you know, Harry opens up the chocolate frog and he's got the trading card, and Dumbledore's gone, and he's like, "What? He's gone." And Ron's like, "Well, you don't expect him to wait around all day, do you?"
Yeah, exactly.
To the wizarding world, static photographs are weird and bizarre, and their world is just normal. That's the way life
Yeah.
is. And the same way in return. So like they don't stick out to the reader and be like, yeah, magic's awesome. Isn't it great and so different from what you know? They're like, just like, no, this is regular life for us.
Yeah,
There's
that's every
nothing
day.
out of the ordinary about anything going on here.
Yeah. Look at Kale. Now let's tell kids to run straight into brick walls because that'll be hilarious next time I need to take the train somewhere.
Right.
That's awesome.
I wonder how many people have seriously run into a wall at King's Cross Station thinking that they're going to find platform 9 3/4.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I would bet they have that marked off. They've got to, if there even is a platform 9 and 10. But I would bet there's a little thing right between that says like, yeah, this is where Hogwarts would be or whatever.
Wouldn't that be great? They just completely turned like, all right, we need a 9 and 10 now. Why? Because we need a 9 3/4. It's
Yeah.
too famous. It's too famous. We're missing
Right.
out. We're totally missing an opportunity here.
By the way, speaking of the enduring popularity of this thing, so I did look into taking the Harry Potter studio tour in London. It's booked through July already. So you got to book like months and months in advance to get onto that thing.
Now, that's the one, if I remember right, that's what, at Pinewood Studios, isn't it?
Yes, and that's a double whammy for us. That's why I wanted to go.
Man. Now, is that the one that has all of the actual props and stuff? Because I know one of the museums has like all of the actual, and the sets are still there, I think, if I remember. They kept some of the sets up or whatever.
Yeah, it's the thing to do.
Man, see, that's not fair. Why does England get that and we don't? Oh, wait, because we have every fucking thing else. Nice.
Look, we got the internet, we got the iPhone, we got the automobile. You know, we've done a few things first, so it's okay. They can have this one.
Look at Joe Gebhardt, man. My wife broke her foot at Universal on platform 9 3/4. They had the illusion to make it look like you're going through the wall. I told her to run like the movies, and she ran straight into the wall. Oh my God. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh my God, that's awesome. So I think this is what Chastity's talking about. She said, did you know that's why they have the cart in the wall, since people were running into the actual wall? I feel like they should have I feel like they should have put a security camera up there and did what they did like when the Wii first came out and you had that website. We have a problem, and it was nothing but photos and videos of people breaking their TVs, letting go of the controller. They should have just done. They should have just done that and had like some website of dummies running into the wall. Not saying your wife's a dummy, Joe, but you know what I mean. Like, that would have been awesome. Like, can't actually go through the wall, bro. So yeah, for you, like I said, you were kind of like you said, you're an adopted fan. I mean, your ex-girlfriend was a huge Potter fan, and so you were, you know, I wouldn't say into it per se, because here's the thing. I always thought you were really into it. And then when I brought it up this last December when we were in Cincinnati for the Star Wars concert, you're like, I'm not that into it. I'm not really. I was like, what? I thought you were like all about it, and I felt bad like mentioning it, trying to talk to you about it. And so
no, that was a different story, because that was one of those cases where some people are fans and they love to talk about it and they love to debate it. That's why we have a show. And there's other fans that love what they love and they do not want to talk about it. They don't want anyone to question anything about it.
It's one of those, huh?
Yeah, I was like, I'm kind of into this, but can you explain to me this part? Or I was like, I don't really buy this story beat. And she's like, you're sleeping on the couch tonight, dude. It's like, oh, okay. We don't talk about Harry Potter. Got it.
So it was too serious and made it not as fun.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Well, now that you've reread the first book, at least, do you think it's something that now that you don't have that kind of specter hanging over you, that you can actually have a discussion about it, that it might be more enjoyable for you now that you've kind of re-entered that world?
Absolutely. I think at this point, actually, it's more fun because once you know the story beats, you know, it's like any other good rewatch. Once you know what's coming, you can now kind of contextualize everything as you see the story unfold.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened even in this by bookending the book with the movie. Is, you know, movie made some sense and was as mediocre as I first thought. And then I read the book and then I went back and watched the movie again. I'm like, you know what? The movie's better than I give it credit for.
Yeah. But it's interesting you say that, because when I first started getting into this, and I had just about finished the books, so I guess that's not when I first got into it. So that was a really stupid goddamn remark. Um, but when I started watching the movies, should have phrased it that way first time. Have I done this before? Um, I was like, I want to watch the movies, but my wife and I, Steph, obviously, um, we like to watch shit together. Like we'll go to bed and kind of put TV on. It's kind of our thing. And I really wanted to watch these movies. And I sat down and I was like in the middle of one and I noticed, she was about to go to sleep. And I'm like, do you care if I put this on? And she said, no, I'm falling asleep. Well, all of a sudden she doesn't fall asleep. And she's like, I've seen that damn movie like a million times from working in a classroom and stuff. And so I noticed she wasn't going to sleep. It's a half hour later and she's wide awake. And I was like, are you enjoying this? She goes, actually, yeah, it's not as bad as I thought. And I said, well, do you want me? How about I stop it? We can restart it. She goes, yeah, do you mind? I'm like, no. So then in like a week and a half, we binged like the entire movie series because she actually got into it. She was like, yeah, this isn't as bad as, I remember. And it's not that she thought it was bad, but again, probably like you, it was rammed down her throat because she was around little kids, 40, 50 hours a week. And they always want to watch Harry Potter. So, without that hanging over her head, she was able to watch it without the pressure. And we binged the whole thing. And, she really got into it. So I think that really speaks to the universal appeal of it in that, it is so entertaining. I mean, there's just something there. And there's an innocence to it. Like it has that emotional weight and everything. But I think there's this innocence to it that is really appealing because you can really get into it and you feel everything, but it's not so heavy to where you're like, oh God. And it's, I mean, it works so very well for that reason.
And I think what surprised me on this revisit was that it's very much in the vein of the original Star Wars, this first book, where like you could tell that the author had thought a good long while about the lore and the world building and everything, but only in broad strokes. Like had a very good handle on the characters and the world at large, but did not have every plot point detailed out to the letter. So as the story unfolds, it was just enough to give this particular slice of the story flavor. Like it felt like a grounded real story and you were picking up in a place that existed, but it wasn't so defined that like they were foreshadowing and hanging a lampshade on everything that would pay off in a future chapter of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that because I don't know. I'm noticing more things going through this, as I was going through this novel and movie for the show. I'm noticing more stuff that pops up a lot later. So
like what?
Well, I mean, little things, but I mean, for example, like, the goblin that takes them to Harry's vault at the beginning of this one is Grip Hook, from the end of the, so that was like, oh, okay. And there's just little things that they kind of come back to. And I should have wrote them down, but I was like, oh, that does pop up later. Cause I kind of thought the same thing, like you just said, where it's like, they just, it's kind of like setting up the world. They have an adventure. We'll worry about all these other more detailed things later, but they actually do have some stuff that they come back to. So it does set up some cool stuff. So, at least I thought so. I mean, I caught some things. I was like, oh, damn, I didn't think they did that. So I wonder how much she actually had laid out. That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the backstory to that degree like we do with Star Wars. We're like, Neville, for example. Neville is just a bumbling idiot in this, and he has his like moment to shine because he tried to stand up to them, but he basically did nothing right in the whole story.
Yeah.
And when if you do know the way it all plays out towards the end and you get to Deathly Hallows, you're like, holy shit, it's Neville.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, wow, you have come a long way, my friend.
Yep. Cale McLeish with a good point. He says, even the last line of "I'm not going home," not really, could have been the end of the movies. Could have been the end if the movies weren't going to keep going. But there's definitely a lot there. There's breadcrumbs to get to the end. Yep. Chris Phillip. Sometimes it hurts to know too much. Is that possible for us, man? I mean, good Lord, with the level of Star Wars nerdiness that we have achieved, I don't know about that.
But yeah, as much as I was picking up on the stuff that like is sewn in this very first book, I also wondered about a couple of things that seem to be a little inconsistent with their portrayal later on in the saga. And I'm like, is that one of those things where she didn't really have it mapped out? Or is it just like George Lucas, where she thought she did, but then had a better idea later? So she's like, screw it. I'm going to tell the better version and continuity be damned. Like, did she know? Are we going to do spoilers for the rest of the series? Like,
I mean,
are we? Is it
been
really
out
spoilers?
for like a quarter of a century at this point? If you want to, I think we can, spoil.
But like, did she have the whole idea of Horcruxes mapped out at this point? I wonder.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I would like to know that too, because obviously with, Voldemort surviving, he had to survive somehow. So, so did she say, well, he's survived, I'll figure it out later? Or did she know that down the road, like, oh, he's so evil that he split his soul and all that kind of crap? Like, it would be interesting to know if that was, if that was really where she was going with that. So
yeah,
that's
one of my outstanding questions about that is like, all right, so did she have it in mind that Harry would be one of the Horcruxes? And if so, how does that fall in line with the plan to kill Harry? Like, is he going to go and destroy his own Horcrux? Does he know that? Well, actually, Voldemort never knew that Harry was a Horcrux, correct?
I don't think so.
That was the whole wrinkle at the end, was like, oh shit, I just killed myself by killing you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing that like Dumbledore was prepping him, like through this whole story, Dumbledore's prepping him, and so he has an idea of what's going to pass in the future, but not, to a fullest degree. I wonder how much even J.K. Rowling knew what was going to pass in the future, or just knew that in general, Harry Potter would eventually have to face off and kill Voldemort.
Well, Chastity says yes. She says that she did know and had them planned by Chamber of Secrets. Interesting. Well, I guess that doesn't really address like his dying supposedly or whatever, or going away at the end of Sorcerer's Stone. So, yeah. And Kale makes a good point. He says, well, the scar always hurt. That was the Horcrux part of it.
See, I just thought that was part of the fact that, the guy who tried to kill him was nearby.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But I mean, it could be a Horcrux part of it. I mean, I could see that. I wouldn't, John Phillips says, I agree. She is a masterful planner. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's not a lot. And we'll get back into, Sorcerer's Stone specifically. But, there's not a lot that doesn't make sense. There's not the Palpatine returned sort of moment in Harry Potter. It all kind of builds, it makes sense. You can buy into it. There's no real eye rolls that I can remember. I thought it was cool the way that everything played out. So, I mean, if she had that planned out all the way in advance, good for her, because holy crap, man, like that's a lot of story to tell to get to there. So,
and even some of the little details that they changed for the movie make sense. Like from a storytelling standpoint for the medium, like, in the book, the first years take the boats, but then they go like under Hogwarts, and then they end up like basically in an underground boathouse or something, right? And they walk up from there. But visually in a movie, it works way better to just have them come across the water, and then there's Hogwarts just looming up there at them,
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's not like a vital change. You're like, oh my God, it's not like the book. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. It looks cool to look at the castle. It doesn't look cool to go through a bunch of, underground water caves.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And, to your point, that again, it does work in the film. It's a smart way to do it. And, I have a website pulled up that's got all the changes and whatnot. And it's, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of differences according to this. And this is, from the Harry Potter wiki, but I mean, like we said earlier, it just works. The way that they changed it, or the way that they, the things that they omitted, I think worked really well. I mean, to be honest with you, there's only one change in the entirety of the whole series, film wise, that I thought was dumb.
Hermione's
only
white.
one.
Yeah, I know.
That's not a change. Shut up. By
well,
the way,
it's never stated one way or the other. So
well,
it doesn't matter either. It's just, it was a joke to make.
it's like, okay, like, because it's funny you mentioned that, because like in the when I first saw the movies, I was like, they made Dean Thomas a black guy, and then when I reread the book, I went, oh shit, I never paid attention to that. He is a black guy. Like, I never, like, certain things.
But
just
do
go
we know
whoop
that
right over my
Cho
head.
Chang is Asian?
There was some stereotypical shit in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, this
Like
is the same time period that Neimoidians, sounded like they did. So
yeah, okay, so
it was a different time.
Let's discuss that. So you and I talked about this offline. So the first movie, I believe, was 2001, which would put this right, when they're doing post-production and all that stuff. Cam McLeish. No, Cho Chang is Scottish. Did you notice that? In the one movie, she's got the Scottish accent. I was like, I'm so confused.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Cam McLeish again says, my only question to this day is, how did we get from Voldemort being a face on the back of someone's head to being a messed up fetus in Goblet? Quirrell more or less exploded. Yeah. And she Chastity is like, this is great, man. Chastity is a Harry Potter podcast. She says, Kale, his soul was just using Quirrell as a temporary vessel. When the gray spirit flies away, that is Voldemort.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. But yeah, so we're talking about like post-production for this movie is in what, like 2000, maybe 2001. So you're talking about right at the time of episodes 1 and 2. And, we said that some of the special effects, some of the CGI in this movie could be a little better. Friends, the centaur is,
Mm-hmm.
Fluffy the dog is a little cartoonish, let's be honest.
The ogre was probably the best of the three, but still not great.
The troll, yeah, the troll was kind of.
Oh, sorry, the troll, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't it kind of seem like ILM was like, yeah, we're gonna hold our biggest bag of tricks for the Star Wars movies, like, because you look at it and it's like it doesn't take me out of it, because that just, for me, I'm getting, unless it's so it looks like somebody just drew the thing on the screen, like the the Family Guy Star Wars, the third one where they have the sock puppet come up on the screen, like, hey guys, what's going on? How's it going? Like,
right?
If it's something like horrible like that, like that'll take me out of it. But if the CG is like, like, yeah, exactly. Christopher Philly, yes. We're talking about the troll. He says Shrek. Yeah. Hey now, you're an all-star in the bathroom. Smash Hermione. But it really does look like it could have been done a little bit better. And I mean, you mentioned that right away. You're like, man, that CGI. Yeah, Joe Guphart, a good question. He says, did it have a comparable budget to Star Wars, though? You know
About
what?
half.
Was it only half?
125 million.
Wow.
Although,
well, I mean,
I don't know what Phantom Menace had.
That's interesting. Half. I didn't think Phantom Menace had over $200 million budget back in 90.
Oh, actually, no. Phantom Menace was made for 115.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought. So I mean,
sorry, it's only modern Star Wars. It's over the 200 mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but yeah, it just kind of feels like could have been a little bit better, I suppose. Did it take you out of the viewing experience at all? To kind of know, for
Can't
me,
really
it did
say
not.
because I mean it was like homework. I had to watch it. So, but it certainly wasn't breaking any new ground. If this like won any awards for its visual effects, I wonder what the hell those people were smoking at the Academy.
Yeah, it pisses me off because like it's when you said that I was like, God damn it! Now I'm gonna watch
it. Haha, kid story. Yeah, it looks like a Spy Kids movie. It really looks like the most basic live action CGI you can get.
Yeah, and when Neville's flying, on his broom and getting whipped around and stuff, like, if you actually then sit and look at you're like, all right,
Oh,
well,
and the
this is a
Quidditch
little
match too.
The Quidditch one I can kind of understand because that had to be a bitch, and they specifically said that in the Return to Hogwarts documentary. Um, so that one I can kind of understand, and it's like I say, it didn't bother me per se, but it's just when you actually start looking for it, then you're like, okay, like you could tell it was at the beginning of that technology.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, like, when Neville's flying around on his broom, it's like this like rubber man, like flopping around like a fish and stuff like that. So, but again, it didn't take me out of it at all. I just kind of accepted it for what it was, and fuck you for putting it in my head. It's like my damn wife seeing plastic surgery on the screen and watching a movie like her upper lip isn't moving, and I'll watch and be like, God damn it, her upper lip isn't moving. And then the whole rest of the movie, I'm staring at someone's upper lip, be like, oh man, that's so fake.
Can't
Oh, yeah.
unsee. Can't unsee.
Right? Yeah. Look at this.
Oh man.
This is interesting. Chastity says most publishers in Hollywood viewed Harry Potter as a children's story and didn't think it was worth much effort. Huh. Wow. That is so unbelievably short-sighted. I can't even imagine. The popularity of those novels, like, why wouldn't you immediately be like, okay, this could be a movie?
Yeah. Maybe I should just go beyond the first screen of Googling though, because these movie budgets are all out of whack. Like number 2 got less money. Number 3 got more money. Number 4 got the same money. Number 5 got half the money. Number 6 was back up to the standard, which due to inflation would have been less. And then double that for the Deathly Hallows to finish it out.
Well, Deathly Hallows was two movies, so that would make sense. But
this just says for part 2 it was $250 million.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
It doesn't even list part 1, so that's why I'm saying maybe I should fact check this a little bit. But yeah, how this one came out, and then for the next movie they're like, you get less.
Maybe there was less scenes that required CG and other stuff. Maybe they kind of budgeted out the scenes. I mean, that could be. Kale has a question. He says, hey, John, not to take away from the stone conversation, but have you noticed there's a part in the Chamber Quidditch match where the score is from Attack of the Clones? Chamber series. I have not noticed that in the second movie, Kale. So I'll have to check that out when I watch the movie again. Kale also says Deathly Hallows was made out of JK's pockets. Can you imagine? Good Lord. I guess that's why she can go be all controversial now, pissing off half the world because she's got so much goddamn money she doesn't care. Right? Like, I'll say whatever the F I want. But anyway, so yeah, the CGI was kind of interesting. And like I say, it didn't take away from my enjoyment of it. I just kind of noticed, like, comparing it to Star Wars, it was interesting to see, like, okay, like I thought that you could have done a little bit, Yeah, Joe Gebhardt with a very good point. Deathly Hallows Part 1 was just them walking and camping in different areas. Couldn't be that expensive. It was basically the Blair Witch Project with Steadicam, right? It really kind of was, man. Oh my God.
Okay, this is from Box Office Mojo because I wanted to see, like, all right, well, why are the budgets all over the place?
Okay.
The returns on these, as much as the books are a cultural phenomenon, the movies really, by modern blockbuster standards, not that big a deal.
Really?
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, lifetime gross, $317 million.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And the highest grossing Harry Potter movie of all time, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, $381 million. So they made their money back, but not by much.
That's got to be wrong, man. There is no way that the end of the Harry Potter series made as much as, like, the first or middle parts. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't know. But what a crazy clip for movies, though. So you had November of 2001, then you had November of 2002, then June of 2004, November of 2005. So they first they were coming out year after year, and then they went to every 18 months. That is an insane production schedule. No
They
wonder
must-
these people don't want anything to do with it anymore. They've given like a decade of their lives to this thing.
I mean, they really did give a decade of their lives. That's
Yeah, they
So-
did 8 movies in 10 years.
was the last one 2011?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I knew that like see now that's interesting to me that they had to change directors, because if you're working that quickly back to back, you would think that they would like they wouldn't have had like what 4 different directors, I think it was.
Well, I think that's why.
That's crazy.
I think that's actually why I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts about like TV series, for example, and especially like weekly episodic TV shows. The reason you don't repeat directors is because while one is filming, somebody else is behind you doing all the pre-production on the next episode, so they can get in front of cameras immediately thereafter.
Oh, okay. All right, I guess that
Yeah,
makes
it's probably
sense.
like, leapfrog. Like, okay, you do the even ones, I'll do the odd ones, that kind of a thing.
Okay. So, getting to one of my favorite parts of this book, and something I think it does exceptionally well. I mean, when you really think about it, like the first half of this thing is really just world building.
Mhm.
And usually that kind of thing, I think it gets a little bit old, because Stephen King tends to do that stuff, and it gets really kind of like, okay, can we get to a story here or something? But I kind of liked how they did it. I thought it was cool because you were kind of like experiencing it along with Harry,
Mhm.
and like, and the Dursleys, like, I mean, you just absolutely hate the Dursleys, and his aunt and uncle and Dudley, like, so I thought it was actually kind of cool. And it's funny because when I bought the book, because I only had them on ebook, and now I'm actually buying physical copies, a certain line with a certain artwork. I didn't know that it was that short, this one, because it felt like there was enough in there. There's like a full story about him going to school and fighting a troll, and then going down into the and getting the Sorcerer's Stone and crap, and like, but there's so much world building in it. I thought it was longer than it was. When I bought the book, I was like, God bless, this is like a pamphlet. Like,
Yeah.
like what the hell?
Yeah, and I had the same experience. Like I read it on Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your free trial and a 30-day audiobook download. But
Nice.
anyway, yeah, it's like 8.5 hours. It's by far the shortest book.
Yeah.
I think once you get into like Deathly Hallows, they're like 20+ hours or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a slog. And yeah, I kept on like double checking the runtime. I was just into like halfway through the school year, for example. So usually that's the midpoint of a book.
Yeah.
But forgetting that there's all the buildup before he even goes to Hogwarts, it said there's like an hour and 45 minutes left. And I'm like, that can't be right. There's no way.
Right.
And yeah, they got through like the rest of the semester, and they, fought off Voldemort and Squirrel. And I was like, okay.
Just call him Squirrel.
Yeah, sorry.
Nice. Squirrel. Oh my God.
But that's another thing that I love about the world, though, is all the wordplay, like Diagon Alley, Nocturne
Yeah.
Alley,
Yeah.
Squirrel, Quirrell. These things are on purpose. They have
I'll
Professor
take-
Lupin, and he's a werewolf. I mean,
I'll take 4 things I did not know for 400, Alex. I knew the Diagon. I knew and I never put it together, but it was like, in the movie, it's like when he said Diagon Alley, it sounded like diagonally. And so
Mhm.
that's why he effed up the flu powder thing. But man, but I never even put that together. And I should have known that, because, like in Star Wars, like, Darth Vader, Invader, Darth Insidious. Like, it's like, oh my gosh. That's that's wow. Okay. The things you learn. So I get educated on my own show. Good Lord.
I love what the chat's doing right now, though. This is great.
Okay.
Kale so we were talking about the 10-year production cycle on these movies, and Kale says that would mess the kid up, and Chastity completely misread it, I guess. Said,
Yeah.
Kale, what? Said the work schedule. Well, you'd be crotchety too if you lived with a Horcrux for 11 years. Think about how Ron reacted when he wore one for a few hours.
That's awesome.
But this is a take that I do agree with from Kale. Yeah, but Ron is an asshat. Even before that, he was turning into a douche. Yeah. I mean, Ron is supposed to be the dullard of the group, but he's easily a third place in the top in the big three of this franchise for me.
Oh God, don't ask me to rank them. I think that's one of the other reasons that I like the story is that it's like I root for all three of them equally. It's not like Star Wars where there's a clear pecking order for me in the big three. It's clearly for me Han, then Luke, then Leia. You know, with Harry Potter, I don't have that. It's like I'm rooting for all of them, and I thought that I think that's why the ending works so well, is that each of them has this cool thing that they do to get to where Harry has to go get the stone.
Yes.
And I think that was my only bummer about the film is that, I thought that the potion riddle was really, really cool in the book. So
yeah.
And
I do like the way that played out in the book better, where every professor had their own charm.
Yes. Chris Villa. I root for her Heine. What the fuck, man? Oh my God! Look at Baltimore classing the place up.
And it's not offensive because he didn't say who's Heine. So
that's true. She might be drinking a beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I completely agree with you. Where each of the professors had their own, hey, you got to get past my trap thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really, really cool. And I like the fact that because of who Harry is and his background, he's going to be the main attraction. But they really don't make Ron and Hermione out to just be nothing but like bumbling sidekicks. They're not just his buddies tagging along on his adventure. Like they play a very important role, especially, Hermione. Like there's a lot of times I'm like, man, I kind of think like Hermione's like a kind of better than Harry. Like, you know what I mean? Like she does all this
ass out a lot.
Yeah. But they also have an awesome line in the movie where she says, books and cleverness, there's more to being a good wizard than that. So they specifically address the fact that like, yeah, Harry's brave and he's got balls of steel and everything. And, Ron is, sacrificing himself in the wizard's chess match and everything. But yeah, so she says like, there's more to it than what I do. Like, yeah, I know all the answers and I know all the spells and curses and jinxes and stuff like that, but there's more to it. And I thought that was awesome how they kind of balanced that out to where it's much more of a teamwork thing, even though Harry's the focal point. I like the whole teamwork thing.
Oh, speaking of changes for the movie, by the way, that I think didn't play out as well. Did I miss something, or did they just not really have a good explanation for why Hermione was crying in the bathroom in the movie?
Because she heard Ron making fun of her. That was the whole like it's no wonder she doesn't have any friends. He's like, God Leviosa. So he was,
okay.
She's a nightmare.
Right.
So yeah, so she was crying in the bathroom because of that. So
okay, yeah, they did it. They did a better job in the book, but okay, that makes sense. It was so brief. I actually overlooked that in both viewings.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, there's certain things that they kind of put up there on the screen in the films. So you just kind of have to just accept that this is, she's in the bathroom. Like, oh my God, like in the book, okay, she was crying, she was hurt. In the movie, you don't know if she's just fucking dropping the biggest shit you ever heard. She, the feast like totally ran through her guts, too much Halloween candy or whatever, and she's just blowing it up in there. You know what I mean? That would be a great scene, wouldn't it? Like, oh, Hermione, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I know they told us you were in the bathroom crying all day. Like, no, it wasn't that. My ass hurt. I was destroying that thing, man. Holy crud. I'm surprised I didn't break the porcelain.
The troll goes in there and immediately turns around, just walks out.
Yeah, right. Hermione saves the day with an elephant dump.
That's how they get past Fluffy too. They box it up and they bring it with them.
They're slinging turds at this giant 3-headed dog. Todd like, nope. Hagrid's like, Yeah, exactly. Hagrid's like, the only way to get around Fluffy is with music, and they go down the trapdoor, and they're like, boy, that asshole don't know nothing.
Music. Did you pick up on that part?
A lot of it. John Williams
The
is
friggin' Harry Potter theme is apparently what they call diegetic, meaning it
What?
happens in universe.
Wait, what? What do you mean?
Hagrid was playing the Harry Potter theme
Oh,
on the
that.
flute.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Like I never noticed that before I watched the movie this time. Like, holy crap. Okay, so just like the Imperial March is apparently an actual song in Star Wars, the Harry Potter theme exists at Hogwarts.
Yeah. I love that. And dude, John Williams, I mean, it doesn't need said on our show, but we'll say it anyway. That guy, oh my God. Like I listened to the soundtracks as I was going through this. Excuse me. And they're all great. Don't get me wrong. But the John Williams ones just stand out. I mean, it's and you watch when you actually pay attention to the music during certain scenes, it is so clear. Like his ability to build the emotional stakes of a scene just through the music itself. And I mean, most composers do that well, you would hope, and you know, you think, but there's just something about what he does.
Mhm.
And even I mean, how do you come up with like that many memorable freaking like theme songs? You know, I mean, you got Superman and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you've got Star Wars, and you got all, you know, Jaws, all this other stuff, and then he did it again for Harry Potter. Boom, 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 boom. And it again, that just like, even though it's like on the bells or whatever, it is like, oh my God. It's just okay. So Chastity says the main song is called Hedwig's Theme.
Mhm.
Hedwig rules. I
He's
love
good for
Hedwig.
weird names like that. Like, you know, everyone thinks that like Ray's theme in the sequel trilogy is that dun 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 dun. You know,
Yep.
that's actually called the Scavenger. Ray's theme is a different song.
Right. look at Kale about the troll going in the bathroom with Hermione. Hey, I'm the troll. I'm gonna. Oh fuck no, I'm out of here. Nice. Now, would Hermione's dump scare off even Moaning Myrtle? We'll save that for our Chamber of Secrets deep dive.
I choose to believe that actually that's how Moaning Myrtle died in the first place. Vessel Bagel Syncope. Yeah, she pulled an Elvis. She died on the shitter. That's why she's in the bathroom.
What the hell is that? You're the idiot that told me this medical term, and I can't even believe it. This was a couple years ago now, but you're like, hey, did you know that there's a medical term for if you push too hard on the toilet? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like how the hell
Vasovagal syncope.
Oh my God.
It's a sudden drop in blood pressure from straining too hard while pooping.
Yeah. So you're saying Moaning Myrtle died of vasovagal?
That's why she was moaning. It sounded better than groaning Myrtle.
Grunting Myrtle.
Yeah. Ghost.
God damn it, you're gonna make me blow my voice out. I gotta sing 4 hours on Saturday. Oh my God. We were doing so well. We were insightful and oh my God.
As soon as they wrote a bathroom into the plot of the second movie, come on now. You know it's going there.
Well,
actually, there's 2 movies in a row where bathrooms became involved. So blame JK.
That's okay. But we'll get to that in Chamber of Secrets. But yeah, so Kale makes a good point, or Chastity, excuse me, makes a great point up here. You know, back to the teamwork thing. She says, you know, Harry Potter is sort of a secondary character in his own story. Yeah, and I don't know if he's secondary necessarily, Chastity, but again, I think what really makes this series work is that, you know, the 3 main characters do kind of balance responsibility throughout. And not only that, but the secondary characters, even though there's not a lot of them, especially in the movies, but they're still like really they're interesting and likable. Like, I mean, who doesn't love Neville Longbottom, you know? Seamus Finnegan is interesting, you know. you have all these like secondary characters that pop in and out, but they're intriguing and they're at least like they're cool, like you're into it. It's interesting. So I think you get into all of these different characters so heavily. And I also think, going back to the good versus evil thing, like I think she did a great job of making the likable characters really likable and the dislikable characters really dislikable, but not to a point where it's too cliche, I think. Because I mean you're waiting the whole series for like Draco Malfoy to like die in a fire or something, like that, which almost happened. But all these awful characters, like you're waiting for them to get their comeuppance, and you're waiting for, like I said, Neville becomes a hero at certain points in the story, and they're just so well written. And I guess, at the heart of a good story, it does come down to characters. It's you got to have characters that really kind of bring you into the story you're going to tell. And I think she does a great job.
I do think that it was a bit heavy-handed with Slytherin. Like when they said that like, no wizard who ever went bad didn't come from Slytherin.
Yeah.
Like, wait, so you got 4 houses and only one of them had shit wizards? Like all the bad guys came from one house. Why is that still a house? Like, get rid of that.
Well, and that's one of the things that the movie kind of did differently that I think they shouldn't have, is that in the book it says, most, or many of the witches and wizards that go bad came from Slytherin. Kind of like where, in the movie it says, well, if you catch the snitch, we win. Like that's not technically true. You get 150 points. So mathematically, it's very difficult not to win if, you catch the snitch. But,
right.
It ends.
But if you're down by 160, well, you lost.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they should have phrased it that way. I think it was a little too black and white with those two descriptions, to your point. But
spoiler for a future show, but yes, Dolores Umbridge. Again,
oh
name,
God.
But
yeah.
If you could just smack a hoe,
What a horrible term. Isn't that a river? The Smackahoe River. Right. Yeah, no, that is a perfect example. It's I don't know, it's just so well written. We'll get to some characters in the Chamber of Secrets when we get there. But it's again, it's so easy to invest in the characters and therefore in the story. There's nothing that's like an eye roll. It all makes sense. And again, I think it's because it's serious. Even little things like you said in the movie where Hagrid's playing the theme on his little flute, like that means okay, that's not just a movie soundtrack. It's like actual Wizarding World music. Like that's just a brilliant idea. And it makes it that much more grounded, I think. So
yeah, Chastity's all over this in the chat. We're keeping it to Sorcerer's Stone, but boy, she knows her stuff about who's in what house, and right. she's in like book 5, 6, 7. She's all over this stuff.
She did say she was, as soon as we announced that she was ready for it, because she's a huge Potter fan. So
oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel bad. I've suckered her into both of my podcasts. She wastes all this time once a week on my dumb ass, like, and all the stupid crap I have to say.
Well, I did want to go back to the point. Sorry, about Harry being a secondary character in his own story. Sure. I think in this first one, he very much is, actually. Like, they make a good point of, and I feel like that's good. We don't want the whole Mary Sue problem of like, he walks into the wizarding world knowing nothing and all of a sudden he's the best wizard ever, So the fact that he's kind of trash and has a whole bunch of help from other people, makes sense, especially with the arc of things where it's like, okay, yeah, you need some extra help here. You don't know what's going on, but you will be important. So we need to help you get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ron does the chess thing and Hermione knows all the spells and the history and whatnot. And Dumbledore gives him the invisibility cloak, and Hagrid helps him out. like all these different people come to his aid, so he's where he needs to be to fulfill his purpose in the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Like, so as we follow him, he's the point of view for us, but it's not like we just see him being awesome over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. No, and I love that. I think it broadens the scope of the story and the world building.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
really
because-
does point out that it takes everybody, not just Harry.
Yeah. And I think that kind of adds stakes to the whole thing, because again, I kind of liken it to the whole Anakin Skywalker. Look at Chastity. It's very well played. JT AJ, on a scale of 1 to 10, my Harry Potter obsession is 9 3/4. But yeah, I kind of liken it to the whole Anakin turning to Darth Vader, the way that they handled it in the prequels. Like, it wasn't, we've said on the show before, it wasn't, he's a snotty little kid in episode 1, then he's a dickhead teenager in episode 2, then in episode 3, all of a sudden he's the world's biggest bad guy. No, there was reasoning for it. It's like, he did it for love. It was like out of pure emotion. There was a purity to it. It was a cool thing. And I think, with the Harry Potter stories, or the saga, whatever you want to call it in general, it's kind of like that too. It's not, well, Harry Potter's the boy who lived and he survived Voldemort, and they're just on this crash course to fight later, and that's the end of the 7-book run. Like, no, other people do have to take part in this and do something. Like, he's not infallible. And so it kind of, you kind of wonder at points, like, okay, well, isn't Voldemort like more powerful than this guy? Like, how is he going to defeat him? Like, it keeps that shred of doubt, because you do have other people that he needs help from, which I thought was really, really cool.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted by our own chat section tonight.
It happens, man.
It's just piecing together all the stuff for us. So yeah, this is one of the things that I was wondering, and I forgot about this because it comes up, later in especially Deathly Hallows, but the whole idea of the prophecy, for example. Because I was watching this and I didn't remember, like, why did Voldemort go after Harry? Why did he go after the Potters in general?
Yeah.
And it's not explained until much later. Because if you only know this story and you're like experiencing it in real time, it's like, why did Voldemort choose to go after them specifically?
Yeah.
And it's just not answered in this book, but it also doesn't need to be either.
AJ's for our audio viewers, AJ's referencing Joe Gebhardt's comment. He says the prophecy didn't say it had to be Harry. It just said a baby born at the end of July capable of defeating Voldemort. Voldemort chose Harry to kill, but failed. Yeah. And then Chastity answers. It says, Joe, the prophecy says that it will be someone that Voldemort will mark as his equal. He was a half-blood, so is Harry. Neville is pure blood. Look at that, man. Wow, that's crazy. See, we're getting educated by these people. This is what it's all about, man. I love it. See, we're not the heroes of our own show. Like, it's like it's the Nerf Herder Council with JT and AJ, but it's like we're the Harry Potter, and then we've got, like, Chastity is obviously our Hermione. We've got Kale and Joe as our our Ron.
I'm a mudblood at best, maybe pure Muggle.
Yep. I unfortunately am too. But yeah, so like I said, I think where the heck were we before we oh, you were talking about the prophecy. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. So let's move on. Not the Dream Theater album. I figured I'd mention that for my Dream Theater people.
Oh yeah, actually I think that's a better term. Chris Vila says, I'm a squib. Yeah, I think I am too. Yeah.
That is a good term. Although I do like Mudblood, and I do like, Mudblood, and I do like Muggle, and so, but yeah, I mean, we'll wrap up here pretty soon, but I mean it's such an enjoyable story, and it was easy for me to see why people got into it so much. Reading the first book, it was like, okay, that was just a lot of fun. And it definitely is something where you're like, okay, I got to get more of this. So knowing how it blew up, in terms of, the literary side of things, because obviously they came out before the movies, it's not difficult to see. It's an easy read, but it's not, like I think it's a very universal writing style. And what I mean by that is it's generally a story for kids, I think, but it's written in such a way that adults can get into it. It definitely crosses, age barriers because of different factors. And I think that's pretty brilliant. And I think even, I think that's important to generating the audience that it had, because as we know, as we mentioned early in the show, as it gets later on in the story, it gets darker and darker and darker,
Mhm.
which of course adults have no problem with that. They're like, okay, this is cool, I'm into this, sign me up. But little kids, I mean, if you're just strictly writing for 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, and you all of a sudden get into, like, in fairy and all this kind of stuff, and death and all this, like, it's gonna be like, what the, but because it does age with the audience in terms of the children's side of things, I think it's just written brilliantly, and it just works so well.
Yeah. Yeah, the books came out 10 years for 7 books, and I think that, to your point, like, how do you keep writing young adult novels and not lose your audience? You don't. You you write more maturely as your audience matures.
Yeah.
So it was perfect, and we'll get there, especially in books like 3 and 4. Um, but Harry becomes kind of insufferable, but it's perfect for the age of the character at the time. Like,
Yeah.
he's an obnoxious, selfish, whiny teenager, and he was written to be obnoxious, selfish, and whiny.
Yep.
It was perfect. So I feel like, I don't know how J.K. Rowling like captured the characters so well, and like the type of person someone is at that age, to speak to her audience so perfectly. But yeah, as the story progressed, the audience grew up alongside the characters, and it was just magic, without being too cheesy about using that word. But really, it's just brilliant the way it works like that. And even more to your point, like, you read the books, and obviously we got the movies, and I listened to the audiobooks. The audiobooks, I checked the release dates, and they were coming out like pretty much on pace with the books, damn near simultaneous, a little bit
Mhm.
afterwards, but definitely predate the movies. And yet the vocal characterizations of the characters are almost spot on to the movie characterizations. And they're
Yeah.
completely separate productions. There's no overlap. It's not like there was one producer going like, hey, have you heard this audiobook? Let's cast someone who sounds like that. It's just
Yeah.
that the characters were so, they leapt off the page, as the saying goes, to where the producer of the audiobook and the producers of the films both had the exact same idea of who that character should be and sound like.
Yeah. I think the only problem that I had with the audiobooks was, and I read this in the comments before I downloaded them, but the way that the reader has Hermione, I was going, Harry, like, that's really the only thing that I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. That and people complained about that in the comments. I was like, is that really a thing? And it was. I was like, okay, I can see why people would be pissed off at that. But um I thought they were great. I think they had, I mean, and that's a third thing, when you listen to the audiobooks, because I did that too. I would be reading one novel and listening to the audiobook of like one of the previous ones I had read. So I was really kind of like multitasking within the Potterverse. So it was it was kind of interesting. I mean, I really like went into the deep end. As soon as I read the first one, I was like, well, I'm hooked now. And it's kind of cool because I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I got 6 more books to go and 8 movies, and now I can do the audiobooks. And like, I was just all about it, man. Wow.
Yeah. And sadly, a spoiler for future Harry Potter franchise projects, Fantastic Beasts is not as good.
Yeah,
Not as good by a long shot.
I've heard a lot of people don't really dig that. Chastity, let us know in the chat if you like the Fantastic Beasts movies. I mean, crap, dude, those are those movies are based off of books that are compendiums. Really, it's kind of it's basically like, I would say, I don't want to say it's like The Hobbit compared to The Lord of the Rings, because I thought the Hobbit movies were
It
pretty
largely
cool.
is.
But the third Hobbit movie was completely pointless, because that was based on, it's wrong terminology, but addendum. It kind of didn't exist in a way. They just made a third movie to get a trilogy out of it and make the money. It's like, what the hell is this? So with the Battle of the Five Armies, I think it's called.
Yep. No, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we need more story. What do we do? Let's take some supplemental material from the main story and try to see if there's a movie out of that.
Yeah, that was just like squeezing blood from a stone. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's, let's make some more money off of Harry Potter. Like, okay, like, let's do that. So, yeah, I actually have had no desire to even watch those, just because when I got to the end of, I forget which book it was, but when it said also from the Wizarding World, look at these books, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's like behind the scenes or anything like that. And I saw like, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Fantastic Beasts in the. I'm like, wait a minute, like. And then I looked up what those books were, and it was like, it's literally like a textbook. It's like, oh, this is a, and they mentioned, well, then how are they making a movie out of a textbook? I was like, okay, that is a little too obvious of a cash grab to me. There's no story in a textbook. So I was like, I don't want to see this. So
I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I did have one more question that ties in slightly to Fantastic Beasts. So I wanted to ask this basically to Chastity. This is a Chastity Crawley show.
Right. Harry Potter and the Chastity Crawley.
The whole Sorcerer Stone thing, the crux of this entire first book. Why does it come up now in the timeline? Like, this thing has existed for God knows how long. Nicholas Flamel is 600 plus years old. And yet the very first year that Harry Potter shows up at Hogwarts, all of a sudden, now the Sorcerer's Stone is going to be attempted to be stolen, and it has to be housed at Hogwarts. And like, it's just a lot of stuff that happens to coincide with Harry's first year at the school.
Well, I just, the way that I kind of look at that is, Voldemort knows that Harry is going to be going to Hogwarts. So all of a sudden, Harry, instead of just being some muggle for what he thinks, or so he thinks, he's going to be going to Hogwarts, and he's going to become a formidable threat. So if he wants to come back, he needs to eliminate Harry Potter. And to do that, he needs this Sorcerer's Stone. That's the way that I looked at it.
He's been formless since he attempted to kill Harry when he was 1. So that for 10 years, Voldemort's been floating out there trying to figure out what the hell to do next. And then just like at this exact moment when Harry goes to Hogwarts, that's when he's like, oh yeah, the Sorcerer's Stone. Let's try to steal that from Gringotts.
I see what you're saying. I just kind of figured it's a starting point.
It is a starting point. It's like, why was the Trade Federation messing with Naboo?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those questions that like really nitpicky people have to have an answer to. It's like, dude, because that's where she started writing the goddamn thing. Okay, like, it's like it does not have to be explained. Every little nitpicky stupid thing does not have to always be explained. Oh my god.
This is the way everything else kind of dovetails nicely and was tied up with a nice little bow. I figured like maybe that's something that's explained later and just forgotten about in this book, or maybe I just missed that detail. It seems like something that would be explained and I just missed it, but maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, I just took it as this is this is just the starting point. So that's I really didn't think much more than that. So Chastity's giving us a long answer in the chat. She got cut off. Look at that.
It's so long. It's too long for the YouTube comments. That's great.
Or the first half, she says, Voldemort was building up strength. He found Quirrell, who was a willing patsy. Voldemort was trying to find Harry, but Lily's blood was keeping him hidden. When he got old enough, Voldemort knew that's where it cuts off. I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, why didn't he find the stone? What, or worry about that earlier. Like, yeah, I mean, you could ask that. I could see that. But to me, it's just that's where it starts. That's where it starts, and it's just all there is to it for me. It's one of those things. I'm like, okay, well, okay. I just thought it coincided. Voldemort's trying to come back, and he knows that Harry's going to be training as a wizard, so all of a sudden he's going to be actually a threat to him. So it's time to start, doing something. So,
so to put a little bow on this, though, the one thing I'll say that
sure.
Oh, sorry, we've got Chastity's second part.
Okay, yep. She says, "Oops, sorry." He needed to try and get the strength to kill Harry, and knew that Flamel had made the Sorcerer's Stone. He needed a body to get the stone. Quirrell was a body. See, and then the nitpickers, Chastity, are come back with, "What, it took him 10 years to find a body? Like, why would nobody else do it before then?"
Yeah, that was my point. Was like was it just coincidental timing that Harry started going to Hogwarts right when he figured out the thing about the Sorcerer's Stone, or was there a reason that the Sorcerer's Stone came up at that moment?
Yeah,
but it might have just been coincidence. It's fine. It's fine. The one thing I will say to put a bow on this, and I want to get your final thoughts after this.
Sure.
The way the book ends and the way the movie ends, I think, is brilliant for this, first foray into the wizarding world, because it was a good self-contained, it's like episode 4. It's a good self-contained story in itself, but it very clearly it set up the world to where it wasn't like we're going to make a franchise out of this. We've totally laid all the breadcrumbs out here. It's more just like, hey, wasn't that a fun story? Wouldn't it be awesome if you got to hear some more?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was written brilliantly. And I mean, part of me wonders if she had all of this, like you mentioned earlier, and I just thought of something from a Stephen King example that like when Stephen King was writing The Dark Tower, he did not know where it was going. He kind of wrote as he went, and he talked in one of the re-released versions, like they did a reprinting, and he has like a new foreword to each of them. And before the I believe it's before the 4th book, he says that the 3rd one ends on a cliffhanger, and he says that he got letters from people saying, "Hey, I'm dying. I'm not going to make it to the end of this series. What happens? Tell me." And he had to be like, "I don't know." And no one would believe him. He literally was like, "No, I seriously don't know." So, and that one was a cliffhanger for 10 years. So imagine that. You imagine, like, I mean, holy shit. But the other thing that makes me think of this is, like, with her writing, is that in one of Stephen King's books, I believe it's Bag of Bones. I haven't read some of these in a long time, but I'm almost positive it's Bag of Bones. But it's about a writer, his wife dies, story happens, whatever. But he basically has complete writer's block, but he's got these novels that he had finished when he was like really prolific and never turned in. So they're kind of like his, kind of like, they might even use this exact term, but it's kind of like a golden parachute. So he's in his safe, he's got like 3 books or 4 books or something that are completely done, but he's got writer's block. So, he has this big hit book, and all of a sudden his wife dies, he gets writer's block, whatever. And his agent and the publisher like, "Oh, we need a new Mike Noonan novel." He's like, "Oh, well, give me a few months and I'll have one." So he basically farts around and gets drunk for a few months, and all of a sudden opens the safe, mails in the book, like, "Oh, I finished a book." So, I wonder, did J.K. Rowling write the whole thing in one giant goddamn pile and just stash them? And then, the first one becomes popular. She's like, "Well, here's this other one. Oh, look, here's this other one." Like, was it done? Or it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up that question earlier, because that's a very good question. It'd be interesting to find that out. So,
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's fun about this franchise for us, is we don't know nearly as much behind the scenes as we do with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So we could just ask these questions and not be like, "Well, actually, it was in this interview with Variety magazine, J.K. Rowling said."
Right. All right. So what are your final thoughts on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
I enjoyed this a lot more than the first time I went through it. I'm looking forward to talking about it more. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen, unfortunately, but you know, we've only got so many shows in the lineup, right? But like we talked about at the top, this I could see why this particular story hooked so many people, and I could see why they stuck with it throughout the life of the franchise and for 20 plus years beyond,
Yeah.
because they literally grew up with it because the characters grew up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brilliant. She hit on a concept that everyone wants to believe in. I mean, unless you're a Dursley about it, you want to believe in magic. So yeah, why don't you go along for the ride? It's just fun. It's good fun, and then the more your worldview opens up and darkens to a degree because you're more of an adult, the story matured with you. It's really brilliant, and I could see why it's been so hard to capitalize on that and expand upon it since, because you're not going to catch lightning in a bottle that many times. What about you?
So for me, let me real quick here. I was going to type it into the chat, but John Phillips says I could only get halfway through a Stephen King book. I did get through all of the Gunslinger. John, I can actually give you a list of some Stephen King books that you might love. I have a couple gateway books. Stephen King is something I would love to talk about on the show here, but AJ hasn't read nearly as many as I have, and I'm kind of nerdy about that. So, if you got through the Gunslinger, a lot of people say they can't get into the Dark Tower because they can't get through that one, and it's the smallest novel of that one by far. It's almost a novella, really. If you can get through that, I definitely have some books that you would really like of his. But there's for sure Stephen King books that are difficult. So yeah, my final thoughts on the Sorcerer's Stone. I agree with you. It's easy to see why it's so popular. And yeah, it is. It's just fun. But I go back to my initial comment, and for some reason, this word has stuck with me in relation to the Harry Potter stuff since I very first started getting into it. And the word is charming. I think, again, like I mentioned during the show, I think everybody can relate to having your best friends in school. I think that's what kind of does it. I mean, you and I, had the Dixons, and we still do to this day. I met Matt, Andy and I were in kindergarten. We were 5 years old. His younger brother Matt was 3, and we are best friends to this day. I was, at their weddings and everything. And so when you can relate to something like that, I think it's very powerful, obviously. And again, I think it takes all of these, I mean, I hate to use this word, but cliche type of things, friendship and bravery and all this stuff like that. But I think it does it in such an interesting and emotionally gripping way that it really kind of makes it feel a little bit different. And there's just something about the emotional weight to everything, as I discussed. The bad characters seem really bad. You really want to root against them. The good characters are really good. You want to root for them. And I think that's powerful writing. It isn't the typical, okay, Harry Potter's the good guy. He's got his dumb friends helping him, and he's just on a crash course to fight Voldemort. It's everybody plays a part, even to the point where, Neville Longbottom is the one that gets him to win the House Cup, at the end of this one, because, he stood up to his friends and said, you're going to get us in trouble again. And, so even little things like that. So I just think that to kind of paraphrase one of the, like a historian that was in the Empire of Dreams documentary, the Star Wars one, they're trying to talk about like the appeal of Star Wars, and the guy he goes through all these different, specific reasons. He says, but also it's just really fun to watch Star Wars. It's just really fun. And, to your point, yeah, that's exactly what Harry Potter is. It's just a lot of fun. It's a really good time. It's an interesting story. It's relatable. And it makes you feel like a kid again. It makes you feel young at heart to read this stuff. But it's not so young at heart type of thing where you feel like you're in a Disney movie. You're not like in a Goofy cartoon or something. It spans multiple generations in terms of the thematic stuff and the writing. So I just think it's a total blast, and I think it was written so incredibly well, and it grabbed me right off the bat. And hey, got its hooks in me, so I'm a case study in all right. Chastity with one more question. John, did you just pick one? I got my house, but I don't remember which one I got. I think I got I got Slytherin. I think.
Yeah,
I got Slytherin.
you did.
So-
I'm a Gryffindor,
Yeah.
which is weird. If anyone's going to be the bad guy of the two of us, come on, hello.
yeah, that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too. Oh my god. So all right.
But,
Well, before we,
what did your Patronus end up being? You went and did that one too. I didn't do that.
it was a wombat.
A wombat.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what it was.
That's probably one of the answers. I don't know.
Yeah, what was, I'll look that up real quick. While I'm looking up my Patronus, why don't you tell these beautiful people what's coming up on the Virtual Cantina Network?
Well, that I can certainly do. Well, I know it's Acolyte Week. We're all Star Wars nerds here, but we just spent a whole hour and a half talking about Harry Potter. But if you are not a Harry Potter fan and you want to go talking more Star Wars, then we have the VCN Watch Along. They're going to be watching episodes 1 and 2 of The Acolyte tomorrow. That's Thursday, June 6th, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. And then on Friday, the Acolyte After Show, which is also covering episodes 1 and 2. That is Friday, June 7th. That is 3 a.m. Eastern, 12 midnight Pacific. So that is, and I had to clarify on this. I'm sure someone from the DCN will clarify if I'm actually wrong, but I think what that actually means is that is actually Thursday night into Friday. So 9:30 tomorrow night, you get to watch the shows in real time with the hosts. And then 5.5 hours, actually 3.5 hours later, after the shows finish up, the after show comes on and you get to talk about it. So that's not 3 a.m. into Saturday morning. That's 3 a.m. on Friday, June 7th, Eastern time.
That's 3 a.m. They must be lonely. Oh, sorry.
Right. And then the Unifying Force has a new episode out on Sunday, June 9th. So if you're not done with your Star Wars fix, you can tune into the Virtual Cantina Network, and they go live at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific on Sunday morning. Probably talking more Acolyte and other connections to the larger force with that. Now, what is your Patronus? You're muted, dude.
Thank you. It is a Manx cat.
Oh, that's right. That was weird. A Manx cat specifically.
Yes, it was interesting.
So not Crookshanks. Got it.
No, not Crookshanks. No,
And not Mrs. Filch.
no, not no.
Sorry, Mrs. Norris.
Mrs. Norris. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Slytherin, and I'm a Manx cat, and I forget what my wand was. I didn't look, but in any case, if you guys want to do that, it's actually really fun. It's interactive graphics and stuff like that. It's a pottermore.com. It's a good time. So I want to sign up with a different email address, see if I get a different house. But we made that sweet avatar for me, so I don't want to ruin that.
So, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
all right,
yeah.
guys. Well, that's gonna do it for another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Thank you guys for checking in. We appreciate you guys, everybody in the chat, Kale McLeish, good friend Chastity Crawley, who basically is our Harry Potter expert in there. We had Joe Gephardt, John Phillips. Thank you guys for checking it out. Hopefully, we'll see you guys again. We are going to be back. Oh, our good buddy Chris Villa. How do I forget him? Says, great show, fellas. Love you guys. May the force be with you. P.S. Star Wars better than Harry Potter. Nice. Yeah, love you too,
yes,
man.
I do remember that, John, you had a very flexible wand on Pottermore.
Yes, I have a flexible wand. Yes, but yeah, love you too, Chris. We'll see you soon, man. So tell Andrea and the kids we say, hey, what's up? So we are going to be right back here in 2 weeks. The date is going to be Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will pick a topic and post that. But Wednesday,
There's
June.
a good chance there'll be more Acolyte talk.
Yes. There's a good chance there might be, because we'll have like 4 episodes at that point then?
Mm-hmm.
Or will it be 5?
4.
Yeah, 4. Okay. 3. So 3. I'm watching an awesome Monty Python documentary on Netflix right now. But anyway,
Yes, it is a federal holiday. Thank you, Josh Toomey, in the chat.
Yes, it is. See, Toomey, unlike other lazy podcasters like yourself, we actually work on holidays. So, shots fired. It's always good when you take a shot at a guy that's got like 10,000 times more downloads than you do.
Yeah.
The jealousy was dripping from my comment, but
Him just being in the chat is going to add a 0 to our listen count.
it is right at the end. Oh my God, we just got 60 live viewers because Toomey's in here. It's probably could happen too. But yeah, so we'll be right back here on Wednesday, June 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you are watching on YouTube, either our channel or that of the Virtual Cantina Network, please, give us a like and a subscribe. Smash that notification bell. If you're not subscribed to both, subscribe to both. There's a lot of great stuff on both channels. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And for those of you guys who are into Harry Potter and have not checked out the audiobooks, you can actually get the Sorcerer's Stone as your free book. It's a great listen, so check that out. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get Virtual Cantina Network swag, simply go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. So, AJ, before we go, travel safe. You will be going to New York City tomorrow for a layover, so you'll be going to the 9/11 Museum. Don't forget to, not that you will, but let me know how awesome it is. That's a bucket list visit for me. And travel safe over in Europe, man. Have a good trip. Have a productive trip. And I love you. And I'm sure we'll talk at some point, in the next week and a half.
Yep. And don't go talking any Crystal Skull while I'm gone, okay?
I'm going to do another episode. Why the Crystal Skull Rules Part 2. Sean Faust, where are you? So thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. I am your host, JT, at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And we will catch you guys next time.